Thanks so much for your patience. Yeah, I was a little bit late because of this. I was like struggling. Let me just pull up the quick PowerPoint slide so that we can start. So it's already 2, so I'm gonna go ahead and then share screen. Okay. So it's already 2, so I'll just go straight into it. Welcome everybody to the third day of Seafic Open House. And today we're just going to do a bunch of panels. So no big event like the final live pitch or Seafic Open Fair. But I think a lot of these panels will be a lot of fun. And just a reminder that the next panel has been moved. The one about is the studio era upon us in Southeast Asia because of a change in schedule with one of our panelists. So it's going to be tomorrow in the evening instead. I think it's due, if you just remind me, is it at 6 o'clock tomorrow?
Yes, 6 o'clock Bangkok time.
Yes. Okay. So apologies for the change in the schedule. So, but if you're going to stay for that panel, please just be reminded that it's you now have 3:30 p.m. today free. So it's going to be tomorrow instead. Today, we start off with the first panel, which is called Forget About Labs, Where the Heck Do I Find Producers? And yeah, it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek because when I travel all over Southeast Asia, as Seafic, it's one of the biggest questions that keep on getting asked because a lot of people have problems finding producers, and not just in countries that are less represented, but also even the big industries, Thailand, Indonesia. There's a lot of people who ask me this question. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. And we have 4 really great panelists with us. So first, and I'm going to go clockwise, funnily from the top left quadrant first. So it's going to be Tan Si-en, who is a Singapore producer. Please say hi.
Hi, everyone.
I'm gonna go into to ask everyone to describe yourself a little bit right after this. This is just a quick introduction. So she's the co-founder of Momo Film and also a producer on many films, such as the recent Wet Season by Anthony Chen. And from Thailand, we have Noorahaya Lahtee, or her nickname is Jan, producer from Vertical Films. And they are currently working on a number of projects that are both in development and also in post-production, including our very own lab manager, Dew, whose first docu-feature is produced by Jan over here. Then we have 2, so now these are the 2 producers. Oh, sorry, Jan, please say hi.
Hi, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
And then next we have 2 directors, but they also have their own production companies. So first is our previous Seafic alumni. Oh, and Si-en also is a Seafic expat alumni as well. So our alumni, Xaisongkham Induangchanthy from Laos, who's the co-founder of Lao New Wave Cinema Productions. So please say hi, Kam.
Hello. Hello.
And last but not least, from Myanmar, we have Sein Lyan Tun, who is a producer at PS Films. Say hi, Sen.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
So yes, I'm gonna now stop this sharing so we can see everybody clearly. So excellent. So yeah, let's start off with just a quick description of what you do and what you're working on and your production company. So Si-en, can you explain a little bit about what you've done and what Momo Film is? Because especially Momo Film is special because you guys also do a lot of development and also even help fund some short films. So yeah.
Hey, hi, everyone. So I'm Sin. I'm a producer based in Singapore, like what Raymond mentioned. So my company is Mo Film Co. We're a boutique film agency that's based in Singapore. We work very closely with emerging Southeast Asian filmmakers, and we produce mostly short films and develop like their first feature films with directors who are up and coming. And like what Raymond mentioned, we have a lot of initiatives and like even like small grants to help out with like people who are trying to get their short films made, because we realize that there's an area that is lacking a little bit in support. I also collaborate very closely with Giraffe Pictures. So some of the films that I've produced with them include Wet Season by Anthony Chen, We're currently in pre-production for a few films, including Aduma by Hershu Ming, which is a Seafic project, and I'm also the co-producer for Arnold's a Model Student by Sorios Papapan, and Some Nights I Feel Like Walking by Peterson. Because both of the projects used to be part of Seafic as well. Yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Yeah. So you guys, you're doing a lot right now, and also co-producing with a lot of Southeast Asian talents. So which is fantastic. Especially Seafic ones. Ha 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 ha. I'm kidding. And how about you, Jen?
Yeah, hi. So I'm a producer from Vertical Films based in Bangkok, Thailand. And actually Vertical Films was founded by Lee Chapamittikul in like 2011, which is a long time ago. So it wasn't active after he finished like Concrete Clowns. And then like we started again with Pom Bunseng Visha like in 2019 to kind of gather all the projects that we have to produce together, because we know that it's really tough to produce something in Southeast Asia, basically. And so we have documentaries, which is one from Dew and also another one, Breaking the Cycle, from Ekapong. And they are like really kind of new talents, and it's actually the first feature documentary. And we also have like 2 feature projects from Huang Sai. Her first feature is Nakhon Sawan, which was premiered in Busan in 2018. And we also have another feature, Flat Girls by Jirasaya Wongsutin. And we have been developing this like for quite like years, like 1-2 years. And apart from that, Pom also, she's also a director. So I've been like kind of co-producing with her on her short, which is called Lemongrass Girl. And we just finished, and it's going to premiere in Rotterdam this year.
Yes, in competition. So yeah, and of course, Pom is our previous lab manager. So now you're producing my previous lab manager and my current lab manager. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's okay.
So anyways, let's go on to the directors. So Cam, can you explain about how you co-founded Loud New Wave Production and also your project?
Hi. My company called Lao New Wave Cinema. It was founded in 2011 by 9 filmmakers. So we are all friends. So we got together to make feature film together, and then it became quite successful. So we decided to set up the company, and for the past years we have made feature films, but in recent years we try to do other things apart from feature films. We also do series, documentaries, and also do a lot of corporate videos. And what we are trying to do also, we try to train young filmmakers. So we bring in new talents and work with them. And actually late last year, we set up also the short film competition called Lao Lan Sang Shorts. We received funding from Purins, because in Laos we used to have short film festivals, but it's gone. So we no longer have that festival. So as established filmmakers, I mean, in the country, we want to do something to nurture young talents in the country. So we decided to also set up the film festival. For myself, my colleague have done a couple of feature films, but for myself, I'm working on my first feature film, which developed through Seafic. I'm a second batch in Seafic, and I'm still working on it. Yes. Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, and of course, last but not least, we have Sein Lyan Tun. Can you explain a little bit about that role as producer? I mean, as director and producer at PS Film.
Hi everyone, and my company based in Rangoon, and I mostly produce the documentary. Especially, I work together with the NHK and produce every year 2 or 3 documentary and other NHK program as well. So mostly my company is produced for the documentary. And now I'm working on my feature length project together with John Badalu, my producer. And my project is the Biage in Rangoon. And I studied in somehow 2016, a long way to find a producer to getting John Badalu on my hand. So I'm very happy to share all my experience and so on. Thank you, Raymond.
Yeah, so let's why don't we start talking about that, because of course, I mean, in your case, saying because you are from Myanmar, so I mean, how hard was it to get a producer, and the reason why you decided, because John Badalu, who used to be the program consultant for Berlin Film Festival and now is working as a producer. So what was your process to find a producer originally in your country and then to decide to find somebody outside?
Yeah. And because I'm coming from a documentary film background, and I don't have any experience for even short film on the feature length film. But when I got selected in Tokyo, Thailand in 2016, and because it's my dream that I want to make a feature film, so I think this is a opportunity for me to present my idea in Thailand's Tokyo, and I started as a producer and as a filmmaker. But one in a Tokyo Talent workshop, I met a lot of expert and that everybody, and they saying you cannot be your own making a feature length project, because it's a very difficult with a documentary. Documentary, you can be your own producer or you can be your writer, but the feature length you have to find at least one producer working together with you. So they suggest me the first thing did is you have to find the producer first. But I don't know. I don't have any connection. I don't have any anybody or network. But I try to look for how do I do that? How could I find a way? And they gave me suggestion. Okay, apply some producer lab so you can have some connection to get the producer network. So you can be the producer also. You can find a producer. So so I started in 2016 in the Talent Tokyo is like a November time. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and I applied to Time That Bind workshop. It's a producer workshop, and luckily I got in the the Time That Bind as a producer, and that what is it's a good thing that and I'm not the real producer yet, but when I attend the workshop in a first session in Italy, and they say and in this project, because your first feature film project, you cannot be your own producer because you have someone to to mentor you, or because if not like that, it's going to be the long way. And they say you might. The first thing is you have to find your producer, and especially in finding in regional, not from Europe. If you can find in your own country, or you cannot find, you have to find in regional, because the regional producer is more important. So, but luckily, I have been traveling with my documentary and workshop like the Southeast Asia lab in a Singapore lab, and also and I together with Cam together we went to the Dot by the Sea, and also the Dare to Dream. So that's why I say, oh, I have a project, and who I have this story. This is my family story. Who can be my producer or something like that? But they say, okay, saying talk about your project, but we talk about the project. I say, okay, you have to develop that and that. Now, nobody promised me that to become a part of my project, but I have to keep bargaining them, and no, I want to make this film, and something like that. And I've been telling to everyone that my story, and I want to make that and that, and but something is confusing them as well. You are making a documentary. Why you want to make a feature film? This feature film is very difficult. That's something that no, I want to make. I want to try at least. So it's taking a long way. That's why I studied in 2016, and I talked to John in 2017, like at the end of year, and John came to Myanmar, and we talk about my project. And John say, okay, and keep update what is your story. And he doesn't tell me that oh, I want to be we can work together or something like that. He say, I want to know you more, and but you have to work on yourself, and let's see how it's going to be. It's take about 1 year when John say yes to me, and I
Oh.
update and email him. And also before that, he told me, okay, say, if I become your producer, this project will not be 1 year. It's going to be at least 5 years. If you can work this duration, I'm gonna be in. But if you are rushing and you want to make this one very quickly, I cannot be. But you have to promise that you have to work on at least 5 years. So that's
Yeah.
how I studied, this situation. That's how John became a part of me. Yeah.
That's actually really great, and I find I give you a lot of props for doing a very interesting thing, is applying to labs as a producer to find another producer on your project. I've never thought about that before, but it's actually very good, because you're, like you said, you're a documentary filmmaker, so you can do that because you are producing your documentary, but then you go there with the explicit goal of finding a producer, somebody else, even though you are there as producer. So hey, so that's a really interesting way for a lot of filmmakers to try, if you're interested, to basically do it that way.
It takes 2 years. It takes 2 years to get that
Yeah.
producer. It's 2 years. Yeah.
And I think Kam can also agree, because you have been developing your project Raising a Beast for many years, and
Yes.
like you also had like you've gone through a lot. You've had you've had some changes and things like that, but now you have a local producer from Laos. So can you tell us what was your journey on that as well?
Yeah. My experience quite similar to Sian. Because I'm also come from a documentary background. Actually, in my country, I'm known for documentary. So I've been doing documentary for quite some time, and also went to Tokyo Doc and received funding from Japan as well. And but also my dream as well to do fiction and to do feature film. So it was quite challenging for me to find producer. Maybe I can tell you a little bit about the background, about how films are made or funded in my country. So and
Oh, hello. Oh, I think he froze.
I'm
Oh, it's so traumatic
average
that
budget
that
for feature
Wait,
film.
sorry.
And the
Come.
financial
You froze. Can you
oh,
restart a little bit? Yeah, because we missed a whole chunk of what you said. You said it's really like it's really difficult and traumatic in your. I mean, it's you can
yes,
explain about
yes.
how it works in your country. Please start again.
Yes. So the average budget for feature film in my country is about 20 to 30K. So it's quite, very little. It's very small, very small. And the way we raise money to make feature film is, through maybe sometimes come from our own pocket and from relative friends and relative or family members. Sponsors or from NGO, sometimes NGO they have some message they want to promote, so they give money to filmmakers to make. So so we don't really have producers who are producers. For us, anyone who can bring in money can be called producers. So it's not really like proper producers. It's just someone who can bring money, and usually money comes from connections. So when I try to find producers, it's very challenging because one thing is the budget is quite high, compared to other films in the country, and also to get it made, I cannot. It's not possible. It's almost impossible to get money from Laos or in the country. So I figure I have to go outside the country. But to go outside the country, I have to apply for funding, and I need producer who have knowledge or experience, dealing with fundings, or who have experience working internationally. But in my country, we don't have that. Like I mentioned earlier, because here, the way we make movie here in Laos is different from other countries in the region. So it's very challenging for me. So for quite a long time, I tried to look for producer elsewhere, especially from neighboring countries. But that proved to be challenging as well, because I come from documentary backgrounds, and I start doing short films, like fiction short films, just in recent years. And I still don't have strong bodies of work to impress anyone outside the countries, because I think you also mentioned about this also, like you really need to have at least good short films when you approach people, because they will ask for what you have done, and they will see from your work, like previous work. But I still don't have that, so it's very hard for me. I tried for quite some time, but then at the end I decided, if we don't have proper producers in the country right now, we need to start somewhere. Why not now? So I turned to my my colleague. Her name is Vannaporn Kino. You met her before. Kino. She's also one of the co-founders of Lao New Wave Cinema. She's produced feature films, but locally. She doesn't have experience internationally. But I figure maybe we need to at least start somewhere and try to develop our local talents. And so I decided to go with her. And the past 2 years, she actually invited to open doors, both hub and labs. Yeah, and she learned a lot. Yeah, and she learned a lot. So yeah, now I'm working with her, and it's slow, but at least we start.
Yeah, and I think that you made two very good points. About one is about previous short films, because when we go to the producers, I think this is going to be the main discussion, because you want to see, of course, the previous works by the directors. But the second one, of course, is the importance of building up and basically homegrown producers. And one of the things that I appreciate about Vanafon is that like she has been applying to labs, going out there, because at some point she realized, okay, I need to learn how this works. And then so she started basically like applying to different things. And now, of course, she's been to Locarno twice. And before, she has never been outside, to any of these kinds of labs before. And I think that's an extremely important thing, is that, to understand that local producers doesn't just start from somewhere, it doesn't start from zero. You have to start from somewhere. So you have to basically also make the same kind of journeys, both as producer and director, to go outside. Not just the director going outside, but the producers as well, to learn how it works outside. And of course, Kam, you are luckier than most in that, like similar to Sein, because you have you have been accepted to a lot of like very well-known academies and labs. You were in Asian Film Academy in Busan. You've been to many like you've been to Talents Tokyo. You have been outside. So the process then is that basically like to find somebody to help you, and and basically that person has to start somewhere as well. So that's great. So yeah, let's go over to the producers, because I think that hearing from the two directors, I'm sure that this is something that is not unusual per se. Let's start with Sen, because you're doing a lot of like international co-productions with Southeast Asians. So when you are looking for directors to work with, like what do you look at?
Just now, I mean, Kam mentioned short films. I think that's definitely one of the things that I look at all the time, like previous works, short films, and of course, like a robust script that is that's developed or like has potential to turn into something interesting. I think like what is important for me, I think, is the vision that a filmmaker has in his or her short film, and also the growth from like one short film to the next. And I always look out for those like few factors when I decide whether to work with filmmakers or not. Of course, like the other very important part is like chemistry. So you need to have a good chemistry with like whoever that you meet with. You know, like sometimes the short films are good, but they're just not meant to work together. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah. And I think that basically the two directors mentioned a little bit about that also, especially saying because you mentioned that like you have to meet in person and to basically like get to know each other, and that's when say John Badlu said, okay, I need to know you first before I'm your producer, and it took a year for you to basically get him on board. And I think that's something that a lot of filmmakers don't understand, maybe a lot of young filmmakers, is that a director producer relationship is like a relationship. It's really about whether you like each other. It's like you don't want to be stuck in a bad marriage and have abandon your child. And if you think about your film that you're going to make as your child, if you have crappy parents who fight, you're going to have terrible children. So you don't want to do that with your with your child. So you have to make sure that the parents actually like each other and agree. And I think that that's one of the things that you have to really understand. And the problem, of course, is like COVID makes it a lot harder because we can't meet in person. But how do you basically like look for filmmakers in this kind of like circumstance, especially because with COVID and everything?
I don't know. I think in Singapore it's not so bad. I think with the local filmmakers, because Singapore's situation is kind of under control, we can still meet. But otherwise, it's a lot of Zooming last year, Zooming with like the different projects and different teams, and I think getting to know each other in like sort of virtual platform, which is kind of strange, but I suppose we are all used to it right now. Yeah.
And then also like, why did you decide to become a producer anyways?
I was just talking to someone recently. I have no idea. I think it found me. Like I just enjoy the process of producing. I like to see a project from when it's a seed all the way till the end of it. So I think that's pretty gratifying for me. But for the large part, I think producing found me in a lot of ways. Like from when I first started making films, I just ended up in a producing role, and I enjoy it very much. And I love working with like not only the directors but like everyone that's part of the ecosystem, like the crew and like the post-production team, and I enjoy that process a lot.
And like one thing that Kam mentioned is that in Laos, people think of producers as people who just give money, and this is a lot of the times it's a misconception about what producers do, is that producers give money, when in fact usually it's the executive producers who give money. So how do you deal with that sometimes when people don't understand what you actually do?
And the producing role is kind of complex, right? I think it differs from producer to producer and from different regions to regions. But I think for the most part, at least producing to me and like a lot of like even I think Jen, a lot of times is working with the directors and making sure that their vision can be achieved. And it's in a large way, it's like creative. You need to have you need to envision what a film can achieve. And of course, I think looking for money is a part of it, but it's not the only thing that we do.
Yeah, it's about the creatives also. And I think that creative partnership is something that I think is extremely important for a producer to also be on the same boat. Because if the director and the producer are making two different films, it's going to be a disaster. I always say that. And that's one of the reasons why nowadays, when you apply to anything, they ask for both a director's statement and a producer's statement. And I always give the example of like this director's statement saying, I want to make a soul-searching road trip into the desert between three people, and then the producer's statement says, we're going to make Mad Max 3. And you're like, what? Because they're totally not on the same page, and already that this project is never going to happen because they don't agree. So lastly, is one of the reasons why you started this fund at Momo is because of situations like, say, Kam, where it's hard to find money to make short films of course, in less developed countries and other things as well, or?
Yeah, I think the grant that we started is a lot. It's mainly for distribution of short films. I think what we realized when we started working with filmmakers is a lot of times like filmmakers in our region, by the time they finish making their shorts, they have no money to send it out, or they have no idea how to send it out. And then you have a short film now, but nobody gets to see it. So I think like a large rationale for why we started a grant was so that like the short films can go further, can travel further, can get to meet like more people. And I think that's also a way that you can find producers when your short films get seen in a wider sort of platform. You know, more people get to know your work.
Yeah, and I think that that's also important because one of the ways that like Kham and Sein, because they're lucky because they travel. You know, you guys have gone to a lot of labs, and then because of that, you're able to meet a lot of people and to also meet potential producers. That's how it works. And so, but if you didn't get a chance to go internationally, say if you didn't have short films that can travel or works that can travel, then you know you not seen by anybody. So yeah, Jan, do you kind of like feel about the same, even though like you work more with Thai filmmakers, but in terms of, you know, like a lot of the challenges that you see, I mean, is it similar to what you just heard?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I just want to go back a bit that, like, you know, I just started like in 2019. So it's kind of like, for me, it's really still like really beginning, the beginning stage, basically. So I'm kind of like growing with my director as well. And I'm not like, mostly I'm now working only on the Thai projects because like I'm still working with like mostly the Thai directors. So because like all of them are also new talents. So it's kind of like growing together at the same time, going to labs and that kind of stuff. Actually, like Busan in 2019 is actually my first festival. I mean, like that I actually like went to in FA. I was also in FA at that year. And yeah, but the problem in Thailand, I think, is just that like we don't really have many producers, especially in the new generation. And when I moved back from, because I started as a post producer, and it's actually like completely different things. So it's like post producer, and then I went to study, I came back, and I just said to myself, I'm gonna be a producer. And then at that time, just like people that I know from like my university, or like people that, you know, like kind of the circle that I actually like got in touch with before they start coming to me with projects. And I think like that how it happens for me as a producer. And it's just kind of taking this leap to say that I'm a producer. And it's just like kind of, saying that, okay, I'm gonna do this, like taking the risk. But yeah, I mean,
but I think that's normal.
Yeah.
I think that's normal because in some ways, a lot of the times, like what Susan said, you know, like it's, you don't even know how it starts, you know, as a producer. It just kind of happens in some ways, you know, because same with me, you know, I started producing just because somebody asked me and I said, oh, and I said, I've never done this before. I said, oh, you get used to it. And I was like, okay. Well, I mean, it started because I was working at Fortissimo, and it in some ways because, you know, I was working at a company that was producing. And I think in some ways, because you work at White Light Post, it allows you that experience to be in touch with a lot of projects, and because you manage the post-production. So in some ways, when people say, hey, maybe you can actually produce not just the post side, but also the film side, it's kind of like a natural extension. You're like, oh, okay, right? In some ways.
Yeah. And actually it's really interesting because like to learn about post-production, actually where the money will go to for the post-production, like the whole process. So it's kind of like to have that knowledge to understand, okay, like you need to find the money for the whole project, but you also need to leave this money for the post-production to finish the project. So it's kind of add up the skills a bit for the producing in general. So I think, but it's really happened naturally.
But I think that's extremely important because unfortunately, post-production is one of the weakest parts of Southeast Asian projects because most people don't understand post-production. Like I see so many missing sound, missing like you know, like materials, you know, like delivery materials, all of these things that people don't even think. They're like, oh, we're gonna sell this film internationally, and you're like, where's your delivery materials? Because most filmmakers in Southeast Asia don't understand any of this, and that's where you come in. And I think that that's extremely important, and because you have already a set of skills that you can take from that and then, you know, kind of like add to it as a producer. And I think that's how people start being a producer, is to basically kind of like come from somewhere and then kind of like use the existing knowledge you have to basically kind of put into that.
Yeah.
And for you, how do you find projects? How do you basically like, okay, they're your friends, okay, that's one, but I mean, in general, like what do you look for?
I think it's different, like because I'm doing documentaries and features. So for documentary, it's really easy that like you see the subject, you see the story, like you see that this is the story that they're telling, like this documentary will be about this. So it's quite clear. when I see the footage, because like normally for documentary filmmaker, they will start shooting something already even before they have producers. So like when they come to me, they would show like the footage, or like they would tell me a bit like this is the access that they have. So like for me, like that's how I choose the project. Like first is like about the story. If I kind of, you know, like the intention of the directors, is it the same with like how I see this story or not? I think that's really important, because I think it's going to take a lot of investment of my time, of my energy and everything to put into that. But for the features, I think it's really important for shorts as well. And because like with Claire, with Jirasia Flat Girl, she has done like a lot of shorts before, and I worked with her for one short. So I think it's really easy to see that this is her style, and like, and the chemistry is just right. So it's like, yeah, it goes like that. And for Rose, for Phuong Sai, I think it's the same, that she has done shorts and she has done features, so it's easier to see. But for me, like in general, like for features would be like shorts are really important, and also scripts for sure. Yeah, scripts, like to see what the story and what the intention behind it, and the connection that the directors have with the story that they're telling. Like, yeah.
But I think that, you know, like in some ways you come in at the right time, because like you said, there is really a huge missing gap of producers in Thailand, especially the younger generation. So in some ways you kind of absorbed a lot of like these young, you know, because I mean, like it's true. And I think that, do you think that this is, why do you think that there's such a huge problem with producers in Thailand or in Southeast Asia? Why do you think that is?
I think like specifically, I think especially for the independent producers, because like, I mean, there in Thailand for now, it's, we don't have that many support, like, you know, government or like, you know, to make like one film. It's gonna take a lot of like time and energy to do that, and that's why like sometimes like even I have friend who want to be the producer before, but she started having to take like other projects like commercials, you know, like other work, just to kind of, you know, to pay monthly expenses. And I think that's how we start losing people in the industry, because like sometimes like the money that we find is not enough for us to kind of survive at the beginning before the project starting to go places or to finish. So I think that's the main problem, like to kind of survive in the industry without doing, you know, without leaving before it finished or start making return to the person. Yeah.
And do you, I mean, like your main kind of bread and butter, like how you support yourself, I guess, is through White Light, right? Because you're still working there, or?
Yeah, and also doing like another like commercial like kind of series that is like take two hats all the time. It's like jumping back and forth. But I think it's kind of, yeah, it is the process of, it just comes something that I have to accept that, yeah, we have to do it. I mean, I think like, I don't know if it's the same with Seun or not, but yeah.
Yes,
Seun. I think, no, I totally agree that it's so difficult to survive as an independent producer. It's hard, you know. I think a lot of the attention, a lot of the grants, and a lot of times residencies and allowance that are meant for directors and for producers is just much less. So it's very hard. And in Singapore, well, I think like it's quite encouraging to see that there are more and more young producers coming up. That there are people who went to like AFIS and like people who go to Rotterdam Lab. So there are more producers coming up, but a lot of times they also need a day job in order to sustain like producing independent films. And I think the challenge remain the same.
Well, that's one of the things that I've been also trying to highlight, is that there are more and more producers labs nowadays that are coming up. You know, for example, you mentioned Rotterdam Lab. There is also Busan Asian Film School. And there's a lot of these kinds of new things that are happening that I think is helping to basically make sure that there's also support, and also like, you know, labs and these academies for producers. And I think that maybe that's also helping. And of course, things like, you know, in Singapore, you guys have the new, you know, the co-production grant, which, you know, luckily also is a way for you to also earn a bit of money as well, right? So I think that also helps you sustain a little bit better, because you have governmental initiatives to basically help you with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the co-production grant that IMDA launches is helpful for like producers in Singapore, and because of the grant, we get to produce like and collaborate with Southeast Asian filmmakers.
Yeah, because like for Jan, sorry, go on.
I'm just saying, beyond that, it's tough. I imagine like in Thailand or in Myanmar or in Cambodia, where there's like it's just like almost impossible to survive, right?
Yeah, Jan, sorry. Well, before I go back to the directors, I mean, do you also plan to attend any of the producers' labs and things like that going forward?
Yeah, of course. actually I just attend Singapore Film Lab, I mean Producers Network. And I think like it's just my first time also to do something like that. So I think like this year I'm planning to do more of that. And I want to start like kind of, making connections with filmmakers outside of Thailand as well.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So I mean, yeah, let's go back to the directors now. So Cam, for example, like yeah, it's a weird thing where like in some ways it's a chicken and egg situation, because you said yourself that I'm still developing my short films, but then I also have to find a producer. So what is your main like challenge right now? Because now, okay, you have a project, you have a script, you have a producer, but it's not as easy as that, because you still have a lot of challenges going forward. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, I also need to survive, and uh, I cannot focus on just working on the project. So actually, last year and this year, I've been working on a lot of NGO videos just to sustain, just to earn a living, So I haven't found a time to really get back to polish the script yet, but this year I plan to do that. For me, for now, like I mentioned earlier, because I still I also take your advice, that I need to work on the short film. So my focus now, apart from working on continue working on the script, I really have to have a good short films. That's my plan for this year. Try to work on maybe more short films and try to maybe submit to film festivals outside the country. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the advice I always give a lot of filmmakers, and I'm not just doing it because I say, oh, you have to prove yourself. Yeah, there is of course that part that basically, oh, you have to prove yourself. So because if you have good short films, people trust you more and they will give you funds, because if you don't have good short films, why would they give you money? So yes, of course, on a practical level, you need short films to be able to prove that, hey, give me money because I can make the film. But to me, another very important thing is also for the directors themselves to test things out, to figure out how they're going to do this. And a lot of times, a lot of young filmmakers make their short film, which is in some ways kind of similar to their upcoming feature. And in fact, the panel called A Taste of What Is to Come is exactly about this topic, because nearly all the filmmakers that are going to make their films, because all of them are planning to do in 2021, all of them are in many ways similar to their short films, because they have been developing many short films for over a period of time. And because they have been making a number of short films, they kind of know what they want to do with their feature film. So as a director themselves, it's also to give them practice, you know what I mean? So that they know, okay, I think I know what I want now, because I've made a number of shorts. I've kind of experimented with a lot of things, because if you don't have enough experience making shorts, then it's hard for you to know what you want to really do with your feature. And believe me, it's a lot cheaper to do shorts than it is to fail with a feature.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper to basically fail with short. If the short is very bad, you can just say, okay, I never made this short film. It will never be seen by anybody, and it's okay. But if you make a feature film, which requires other people's money, it will be on your IMDb and will never disappear. So it's better that you fail with a short and it disappears, rather than it being on your IMDb and being your black mark forever. That's what I always say, right? So,
Yeah.
and Saint, I've kind of given you the similar advice. So, I mean, what do you think? Saint Lyan Tun? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And and also I want to share the one, the one I get the producer and then being the writer, right? And I don't have a very strong short film as well. And but before the process, right? It's a very difficult for producer being a part of me. Because I've been trying to apply many project market like the Busan the project market or some project market. But being as a producer, the writer by myself, I applied it, I got rejected. And I didn't know that, how many times I need to apply, and, they only accept for 2 times and 3 times. So I just keep applying by myself to getting before I get the producer. But that John become my ham. John is very difficult to deal with. Saying you already applied it. This is you shouldn't be applying. Your project is not ready. But it is difficult for John as well. And also, the short film that it's different. When you applying for the the talent lab like Tokyo talent, because we still have some documentary that we work for, so that documentary can be presented for the talent lab or like Singapore. I'm being to the Singapore Southeast Asia Film Lab with my documentary, but the lab is okay because it's a personal development. But the feature film with the producer, sometimes the producer myself, my experience now. I have some difficulty to applying for the lab with the producer because 2 years I be applying, I got rejected. But some project market I cannot apply anymore. Even I got a good producer. That is, I think the filmmaker like me has to be very careful about, or you shouldn't apply, and you have to trust and respect your producer. The producer can manage all the situation, But for me, I didn't have a producer. That's why I try myself to work out. And when I have met with some of the experts and the panelists with another workshop, and they say, saying your project has been since 2016 and until 2020, it doesn't see that, any improvement. What is your improvement? But my struggle is 2 years that I be applying and I got rejected. I have no producer. That's make, some, the rest of the people, they don't know about the project, the project and how I have been struggling. I think that the filmmaker should aware of, that's kind of mistake that what we can done in future as well, or we don't have a producer and just keep applying. It doesn't make sense, and it's also difficult for the producer as well.
Right.
So
No, I mean, you raised a lot of really good points. And just to note, the reason why, because, you might be wondering, wait, why is Sein Lyan Tun and Xaisongkham are able to go to all these labs if their shorts are not that strong? And it's because actually, as documentary filmmakers, they are very accomplished. I mean, like their documentaries are strong. But remember, documentaries and fiction are very, very, very different things. And so that's why, just because you can make a documentary does not mean that you know how to direct actors, you know how to do the blocking, the lighting. So it's very, very different when it comes to fiction. And that's the trouble that they have. They can get into these labs as documentary filmmakers, but they cannot get in as a fiction filmmaker. And that's a huge difference. And the second thing that you mentioned that's really important is also that, I mean, like just reapplying to things when you don't have a producer is a death knell, because a lot of times people don't realize is that, when you keep applying to something, you lose that opportunity forever. Even now, if you just if your script is much better, you have much better work, you have a sensible producer, you kind of close those doors because they said, oh, well, you already applied twice, you cannot reapply anymore. And you're like, wait, what? Why? And you didn't know that because you just thought very naively, I'm just going to apply by myself. And then you lose those opportunities. So you have to be very careful about what you do. And that's why, trying to find a producer early on is extremely important so that it avoids you getting into this kind of mess, which is that, you suddenly block all the ways forward because you didn't know any better. And the third thing is, a lot of people ask me why you cannot self-produce. Why can I not produce myself? And this is extremely important. Most people outside of Southeast Asia, they think this way. If you're a first-time director and you don't have a producer, you know what it means? It means nobody wants to work with you and you're too difficult. And because of that, they definitely will not give you money because it means nobody wants to work with you. Because why in the world would you basically produce by yourself when you have never made a film before? So that's the reason why you need to have a producer, because nobody takes you seriously and because everybody thinks you're difficult. And then they definitely don't want to give money to you. And that's the reason why you have to have a producer when you start out as a first-time director.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you wanted to say a little bit more?
Yeah, and also the what for me is having John is like it's too mean to me, because when I started with my project and John doesn't listen my story, and John say no, the most important thing is watch a lot of short film. Not
Right.
your story is not important yet. You have to watch your short film, and I want to know
Right.
your vision, and also I want to understand the other vision. And he
Yes.
started with me with the Southeast Asian film, because sometimes honestly before that I haven't watched a lot for Southeast Asian short film, because if we go to the festival, of course, at the one we go to the Singapore Film Festival, at least we can watch, and we cannot watch all the Southeast Asian
Right.
film in Myanmar. So it's likely that John sometimes John gave me to even last year, and John called me to go to the the Q cinema and watch a lot of film before writing the script or before telling the story. So I started with this way, and he asking me, what is the story about? What is the writer doing? What is the most part that you like? And something like that. I studied, and he doesn't talk about my story. And for me, okay, sometimes I want to talk about the story, and he said, no, you are not ready. You should be ready for the short film. So that's why we start develop together with short film last year, and I write the short film, and he, I tell a lot of story about him, and he all rejected. No, this is no, and I'm be upset. And then finally, and after 8 months, and I got the one story, and he said, okay, that's one we are going to develop together for the short film. That's how we started. It's it's taking time, even making a short film. I mean, for us, it's more important, because we are coming from the documentary background. We have to absorb everything when we really want to be going on this way. So I think John gave me the right direction. So I think that everyone should know about the situation, how the producer is important, and also you need to respect and trust on your producer. Sometimes
Yeah.
that John say, no, I'm not going to apply this lab, and you cannot doubt about why not now, why not me, because he produced the other things as well. But you have to trust. He
Yeah.
know that you are not, this is not for your time, or this is not fit for you, and he will decide it. So for me, I respect it, and I trust it, whatever he make me to improve. So that is, I think that is also important between the writer and a producer. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another really good point, is that you're lucky that your producer is a festival programmer, because that means that he watches a lot of films. Because one of the things I always feel about young filmmakers is that they don't watch enough films. So how can you make films if you don't watch films and you don't know what other people are making, or like, because you don't know what other films are being made. So like, how can you make good short films? And I always tell people that the most important thing is to watch a lot of films. And I'm very lucky, because I was a festival programmer and I watch a crap load of crazy films, and I think that that's one of the reasons why it was a very good education for me. And I always tell filmmakers, watch a lot of films, because how can you know what you want to direct if you basically don't know what other people are making? And you're competing with a lot of these people as well, because if you're going to submit to any festival, you're going to be competing with them. How can you make films without knowing what other people are doing and what you're up against?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so important. Yeah, so we're gonna soon open it up for Q&A, but any other last remarks from Kam or Jen or Sun? Anyone want to say something? No, you're good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's let's go ahead with the Q&A. So first one, it says, okay, this is for Sun. For Momo Film, do we filmmakers have to wait for the event you arrange to open, or if we filmmakers can contact you at any time to work together? If we can, what would you like to see from our proposed project?
Yeah, so you can contact me anytime. Like, there's no specific window at any point of the year. I mean, if you have a project, just send it over. I mean, generally, what we like to see is, I think, like your script, your previous short films, and usually a director's statement is very important for us to understand like what you want to do with this film, like in terms of like your vision for it.
Do you
Yeah.
have any like requirements, like your short films have to already, like you have to at
Oh.
least make 2 short films? Oh wow, you're very generous with your time.
Yeah, we don't have. Yeah, we don't have. Yeah, well, I
Because
mean,
for
like,
Yeah.
for Momo specifically, we're interested in supporting like emerging filmmakers from the region. So like we don't want too many of that hurdles in place. If you are someone that is interesting, we're interested.
But you know, like for example, Park Sung-ho yesterday at his Seafic Open Fair said that he works for the Busan Film Festival, and he said that each year he gets 1,000 short films submitted to him from Asia. 1,000.
Wow.
Are you sure you really want to
Wow.
do this and just say you can submit at any time? Because he just told me 1,000 shorts. Is that really what you want to do?
No, I don't get 1,000, but I mean, yeah, we'll see. When it reaches that number, I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay, we answered that one. Next, so please, keep the Q&As coming. So, okay, the next one is, this talk is very inspiring. Thank you, Seafic. I'm curious, how do the speakers
Sein Lyan,
sustain
hi.
the funding, or how do they get support to maintain their production company that supports more independent films, especially short films? And to someone like me who just put up a production company that also aims to support local filmmakers, especially my region in Mindanao, what advice can you give? Okay. I don't know. Anybody want to answer that? How do you sustain the funding to support your production company? What advice do you give for a production company that's also supporting local filmmakers? Maybe Kam, you can answer the second part about how do you have a production company that also support local filmmakers?
For us, actually, when we set up the company, because we're all filmmakers, so we want to make films. But then to survive, we cannot just rely on making film for theater, for example, because in Laos, nobody go and watch movie anymore. So for us
no.
to survive is really, we have to do other things as well. So we work a lot for NGO. So our main income actually from NGO. So we make corporate videos, we make educational videos, and then sometimes we also sometimes we organize the training for filmmakers, young filmmakers, and also when we have project, for example, if we have short films, or when we shoot series or commercials, we invite aspiring filmmakers or people who come and join us to be part of the team. And also, like I mentioned earlier, we started to have a short film festival. We focus on the short film competition. So our aim is really to provide the platform for them to showcase, and we want to our hope is really to find new talents, and if they have good short film, we can help them to submit to other film festival as well, because short film is very important, like you guys all agree. So that's what we've been doing. We try to share our experience. We train young filmmakers. Some of them actually, after sometimes, if they are capable enough or if they have experience enough, we actually take them on board when we have the project or when we shoot the feature films. Yeah.
So that's a really good point, because Jan, do you agree? Is that, in some ways, these kinds of initiatives to help support local filmmakers actually can be very good, because they can actually end up being this is terrible, but interns, you know what I mean, on projects that you work on, because especially like Kam, if you have productions or videos you have to do, and if you know a lot of filmmakers, that hey, you can get paid if you actually come on board. And I think this is one way for you to basically support filmmakers, but at the same time also be able to also have them involved in your projects. Jen, do you kind of do the similar thing with you?
Sorry, I lost you at the last sentence because the connection was gone a while ago.
Oh, yeah. It's just, do you do something similar where you basically it's good to basically work with some young filmmakers, who work as trainees, or let's just bring them on your projects because you need talents anyways on your projects that you do, which is not like feature films, like you're doing series right now, but it's also a way to basically help support the local filmmakers to basically get them started.
Yeah. So we do a lot of that actually, like, and also with other projects as well, like for the documentaries or with the features. Sometimes we also hire, assistant producers to kind of help with the proposals, that kind of stuff. So we do, and we have a lot of young filmmakers for that actually, and a lot of trainees. But we do pay, like we do pay,
Yes.
but not like that much amount, but we still pay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
like, this is not slave labor, so at least you get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially
Yeah.
because you are doing legitimate like NGO videos and things like that. So in those
Yeah.
circumstances, I think it's important. So, okay, next question. I think the next question is perfect for Sein Lyan Tun because this is for the directors. A lot of filmmakers get unmotivated when they get rejected. What piece of advice can you give filmmakers to further pursue their stories? I think that basically like the directors, because a lot of people don't understand that rejection is very normal. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, I did a lot of rejection since 2016 with that. I mean, for the feature project, yes, because you have to be. The thing is, like I say, you have to be strong, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in your project. Also, you have to trust in your producer. You have to listen. And the producer say it's not ready. It doesn't mean that he doesn't trust you. It means that he is trying to develop in you, because I completely trust John. And also, you have also the relationship, and even sometimes I'm writing some, some writing and then some script, and then something stuck. I call John, please listen to me, and I want to talk something, even in 5 minutes. So you have to that kind of, he listened, and I got a new idea. So I mean, you have to have this kind of relationship. So that's make you, okay, doesn't matter. Even you got a rejection, you have someone who stand in front of you, and I have a John, I have power. So you have to make your own, and also you have to fill up your, okay, I don't have a short film, so I have to plan to make a short film. Okay, your script is not strong, and you have to learn how to write the script, and you have to watch the film. But it's going to be take, like John said, it's going to take 5 years. But the thing is, you want it, and for me, I don't want to give up, because I want to work on this way. That's why I say, okay, rejection, I feel it, and I say, okay, come on, and next day I have to move on. Yeah, the rejection make you sick sometimes, but you have to keep move on, and you have to trust. And also, when you have some idea, or from when you apply for another lab and another suggestion, you take everything, because they can see you, and they can give you some advice, and they know your weakness, and when they tell you, you're trying to fix. It's not about, you cannot do anything, but you have to try to figure out who are you, and yourself is very important, I think.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's very normal. Like, a lot of like Seafic alumni, a lot of our Seafic filmmakers, they always tell me, I applied 3 times to Asian Film Academy, and I got rejected. I only got in the 4th time. It's actually very normal. It's completely like, like Talents Tokyo also is not easy to get in. A lot of people, apply 2-3 times. So, like, it's you have to learn to have a thick skin to be in the film industry, because if you give up so easily, like, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's the thing, is you have to keep fighting, and I think Kam, you agree, right? So
yeah, I agree. I think it's part of the game actually. Being rejected, you cannot submit to festival or funding and you receive all the time. You just have to keep trying. And I agree with you, Raymond. One part about a lot of young filmmakers, they don't really watch other people films. It happens in my country as well. Young filmmakers. For example, when we have the festival, the short film competition, they will just come for their short film, and then they just leave. After they finish watching their own short film, and they leave. They don't stay around to watch other people film. So I think it's important also. If you get rejected, maybe if you can get feedback, you ask for feedback, and then you also have to watch other people work as well. How they get in. Those who are successful.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Next one. How do you know when you found a good producer? Are there any criteria they should fulfill? Okay. Let me ask actually the producers also. Is like basically like like I'm just curious, how do you know you found a good director also? Like, just to kind of like, to flip it around a little bit. And then I'll go back to the directors. Yeah. So Sen or Jen, like, like what kind, do you have any criteria to basically like look for directors in what you do? Or is it just the script and their previous works?
I don't know. I think like what Raymond mentioned earlier, a lot of times like a producer-director relationship is a proper relationship. It's like some sort of marriage. So I think when you know that it's a good marriage, or it's a good combination when when you work together, it's a constructive sort of partnership. You help each other creatively, you help each other work within some of the limits, you help to overcome challenges together, like you journey together. And like what Jen said, it's kind of like you kind of grow together as you work on the project. So that's really important, whether I think from either the producer or director side.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and I feel like there's like so there will be like good times and bad times during the development of projects, but I think like the main thing is the collaboration, like to kind of understand each other, the time to push and pull, to support, kind of to know like when you have to push, you have to pull for like something that like the director needs or producers need. So I think like, it's the understanding, I think, and also the understanding of the person. Yeah.
And also Sein just now mentioned that there's a lot of trust between John and himself. So I think the trust element is always important, because if there's no trust between the relationship, then it's not going to happen.
Do you agree, Kam and Sein?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, like, if you found a good producer when you can have a relationship with them, and then you trust each other to do all these things. So I think that's really the main thing. Of course, experience and skills are all very important as well. So
I think the another thing is one of course when I studied with John, okay, but of course I don't know John very well, and after I find out he is a programmer, he's a big guy. Before that, he's also working on a documentary and also producing a documentary. But John told me that, okay, you have to find out who I am first, and you have to watch what kind of film I produce. And is this very similar to you? Is okay, and you can work with me. Okay, if it doesn't mean that I can work with you, mean that you can work with me. It is very different between producer and the writer. Of course, sometimes and the producer say, okay, I can work with you, but sometimes the writer will be in a few months or 2 years later, I cannot work with this producer. What kind of film he's producing? Something like it's going to be happen, and John doesn't want this kind of situation. So during this the 8 months or the 9 months, and he say, okay, find out who I am and find out what kind of film I produce, and you will understand what kind of film I like, and and we share this kind of things before he accepting as a producer. I think this step is also important between producer and the writer, I think.
Right. Okay. Great. So next one, in order to develop a film project and also to develop a director or producer, with the cost of development, how do indie producers manage development funds? Okay, like Kam, like how do you basically like find the money to go to these places and things like that?
For me, when I apply and if the project is accepted, usually everything is funded, fully funded. So yes, so everywhere I go, usually is funded.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, like, sometimes you do, like, for example, look for extra funds. For example, sometimes, you do go to, say, the Goethe Institute, and then, the Goethe Institute then fund you to go to Berlin, for example. So there are those circumstances where maybe you don't have the money, but basically you get another organization to basically, like, support you to go somewhere, like the Berlinale when you were there, right?
Yeah. I think the good thing about the situation in Laos right now, or for Laos or Lao filmmaker, is that our industry is very small and it's still unknown to the world. So sometimes we get the priority or the support. Some countries they specifically maybe allocate some place or funding just to support Lao filmmakers. Because we are still underdeveloped. Like in Laos, there are so few filmmakers, like Lao filmmakers who travel. So So if you want to travel overseas and if you need to additional funding, actually we can apply, and there's a high chance for us to get because there's so few of us who travel.
Yeah, and I think that also like the question is because it's anonymous, so I it really depends on what country you're from, because that changes the question quite drastically. Because if you're from Singapore or the Philippines, your governments actually are supporting you a lot. Like Sudan, the IMDA basically supports all of your endeavors, even if you apply to say Torino Film Lab, they will pay for that, right?
Yeah, that's right. In Singapore, I mean, most of the labs and development platforms, they are supported by IMDA. So the lab costs, the travel costs. So we're very fortunate in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, the Philippines the same. Indonesia also basically Backcraft used to do that. Now, of course, Backcraft has been basically assimilated into the education and ministry. So I'm not really sure what is happening in Indonesia right now. But yeah, and how about the Myanmar and Thailand? So Sein, how do you find money?
We don't have a local fund for this, the filmmaking or annual, but for my situation is because I was in a talent Tokyo, and whenever you have some, when you become an alumni and then you can apply for the travel grant, or if you apply to Torino Lab, if you get in and you can apply for some funding from the talent Tokyo. That is kind of opportunity if you applying for lab and you become an alumni and you have those kind of opportunities. So for me, I have to look only for those kind of opportunity. Even I think the Kindred Bank also have those kind of some funding, not that fully funded, and you have this kind of opportunity. So for me, I have to only look for those from those lab if I have something to go anywhere or to develop my project. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that's really specific to Talents Tokyo alumni, because Talents Tokyo, if you graduate from there and you manage to get in, they actually help to basically like you can apply for what is called the next master's program. And this basically allows you to basically like get money to go. So if you get into Berlin or Cannes, you can just ask Talents Tokyo for funding, and they will help you with the funding for flights and accommodation to go to Berlin or Cannes, for example. So that's very lucky.
Exactly.
But they don't pay you for like Torino Film Lab. They will not pay you for your tuition, because Torino Film Lab, there's 3,000 euros cost. They're not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
So, but Thailand, we have nothing. So
yeah, we have nothing. I mean, we used to have like 3 years ago, because like for Tirasia's first feature, she got the development fund, and like we are running out of it. So we are trying to find the funds outside of Thailand as well. And also for Rose, I think we are looking for the next master as well. I think right now that's the only thing we can do.
Yeah, because Thailand, unfortunately, is one of those unfortunate countries with really next to no governmental support. So what can we do? Okay. Oh, is type in the answer? I'm not going to type in the answer, so whatever. It's already answered live. Okay, next, Xaisongkham, could you explain more about short film festival that you are organizing? What is the criteria and how did you raise fund? How many projects have you chosen and made, etc.? Thank you.
The short film we just started last year. We applied funding from Purins, and luckily we got the money just to organize the festival. For now, it's just for local filmmakers. It's only for Lao filmmakers. So it's short film competition. First year we focus on the short film competition, but this year or in following years we want to have like a short film festival. So short film competition is part of the festival, and then maybe we can screen short film from the region as well. But for now, it's just for local filmmakers. Yeah.
Yeah, so Pure Pictures, Pure Pictures though does fund like festivals and things like that. So like if you are considering to basically do something like a local festival for shorts, for example, that's one way that you could do it for if you want to apply. Okay, next. For producers Sein and or Jan, when seeking co-producers for projects, what are some of the criteria you look for in your potential partners aside from sharing overall vision of project and good chemistry? Also, how do you determine responsibility of co-producers in achieving goal or project? Thank you in advance. So yeah, so Jan, let's start with you.
I think like it depends on the project as well. For example, like for Plong Soi's project, we know that like we need co-producer like from, because we are also looking for like, you know, Singapore. We're gonna apply for a Singaporean co-production grant as well. So we're gonna kind of like scale down that we have to look for Singaporean co-producer, and also like I think another important thing is just like what kind of support from the co-producer that project needs. Like for Plong Soi, we have at first the first draft we have to shoot in 3 different countries. So we need like co-producer who can actually like give us that kind of advice or have experience in that regard. So yeah, that's the main thing we're looking for. Yeah.
Quick thing. So it's already time's up, but because luckily there is no second panel after this because we moved it. So we're gonna continue for a little bit longer, for maybe another 15 minutes, because we do have a couple of more questions that we want to answer. So yeah, let's go to Sein. What do you think?
So yeah, it's interesting how Jen said like she's looking for like how the co-producer can contribute to the project, and I think for me it's always also about like what can I bring on board the project other than like the funds from Singapore? Will we bring like some talents on board? How can we help achieve the vision of the filmmaker beyond like just contributing money? I think that's an important factor.
Yeah, and I think that is extremely important to note that, you know, like for example, for me, when I look for co-producers, I'm not looking for co-producers because I want money, because money is the cheapest way to basically look for co-producers, because if that's all you want, then it's not really a relationship that you're looking for. To me, it's also about sharing the same vision, sharing the same goals, and to be really passionate about this project and knowing that you're going to go all the way to basically make it happen. So that's something that's extremely important. So how do you share, like determine responsibilities then? Because sometimes you have a project with many producers on board. How do you share the responsibilities in those kinds of situations? So then, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of conversation, and then deciding like after deciding like how you can contribute, then we split the responsibility. It's not just about like bringing the grant on board. It's about like finding a talent that, you know, for example, a DP or an editor that could help contribute it to the thing. But also, I think we try to manage the number of co-producers sometimes, because the more co-producers you have, the more countries that are involved, the process get very complicated. Yeah. I don't know. Raymond, what do you think of like having like a lot of countries on board, because, you know, your project?
My projects usually have a lot of co-producers on board anyway. But the thing is, you know, like I'm a bit of a dictator. I'll be very honest. I'm the delegate producer, and I'm basically the one controlling the whole thing. So I basically, like for every film that I make a very clear structure of how it works. So like I'm the delegate producer, so I'm on top of the pyramid, and then I have other producers who are basically like under me, and they have very clear, specific responsibilities that they basically do. But basically, like, you know, it's like a little bit like a pyramid, like of how I do things. So I know exactly who is responsible for what and what they do, and I think that that's exactly it. To be very clear about what each of the producers or the co-producers' role are as the main producer, that you have to have a very clear structure in your head of how this project is going to happen, how the financing is going to happen, and how the film is going to be made. And that's the main producer's job, to really have this vision of how it's going to happen. And I think that that's really the key thing, you know, like you have to be really clear about, you know, as a producer, you have to have a vision, not just creatively, but also in terms of like managerial and in terms of like the structure of how this is even going to happen, you know. And yeah, and to me that's something that's extremely important. Okay. Billy says, with all the international content platforms coming to Southeast Asia, do you think it will change the landscape of our local industry? So let's start up with the producers. Jen, what do you think? Because, well, you know, I know that some of the projects you're working on, but you should answer this.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing that I'm working on, we're still developing. It's gonna take time for sure, because it seems like it's bigger than what we had planned at first. So it's gonna take time. But yeah, I would say that it might change the landscape. Because I think the first thing would be about the content. I think like the narrative, the story that I'm telling, and also like the platforms that people are going to be watching, because like right now with the situation with COVID and stuff as well, like the theaters, you know, even right now, I think like in Thailand it's still working, right? It's still open, but like I think like last week or something, they don't have anything like in the theaters for, I think, for a bit, if I see the news correctly. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting what's going to happen. That's all I can say now. I know that it's going to change, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to change yet. What do you think, Raymond?
I think the same. Honestly, like it's a really hard question to answer right now because we're right in the middle of that change, and we don't know how things are going to shake out because COVID is so crazy that, you know, like I don't know. So, do you agree, everybody? Sein Lyan Tun, like, do you agree? We don't know yet. All we can do right now is just do the things we have to do and then see what happens.
Yes,
Lovely.
Sun, yeah.
Yeah, precisely. I don't know. I don't know. It's changing. I don't know how it's going to change. I think like people's consumption habits are already altered, and film festivals can't take place physically. So yeah, I guess we'll find out what that change is in a couple of months' time.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, your producer is here, Sein Lyan Tun. John Badalu. What if the collaboration between producer and filmmaker goes not as expected? What can or should you? When can you or should you say quit? Just to throw some issues out there. Hard hitting questions. Kam, do you have any? What do you think? Everybody's having a great time now.
I don't know.
It's okay. You don't have to answer. You don't.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? It's a hard question because sometimes things don't happen the way that they're supposed to, and like breakups are difficult. Like anything else, it's like a relationship. So yeah, I mean it's really you have to know yourself that basically if things don't work, that you cannot keep on dragging things on. You have to basically, like, at some point, if you really know it's not going to work, you have to really know whether as a director or producer, it just like, you just need to stop it, because there's no point in endlessly working on something that is not going to benefit anybody or either side, or that the project's never going to happen. It takes a little bit of bravery and guts to basically sometimes also just say, this has to end. It's hard to explain, but it happens all the time. It's like any kind of relationship, honestly, right? I mean, yeah. I think that's all we can say. But we all laugh. Maybe in a less public setting we can say more. Okay. How many short films should a filmmaker have produced to find a good producer? Are the past short films produced required to be accepted in festivals? I have a certain idea of the numbers, but producers, what do you think? Sun, what do you think? How many short films should you make before you find a good producer? Or, yeah.
Then
Yeah, I think one or two. I would say, like, if it's a good one already.
minimum, yeah, probably minimum one or two. I think I feel like the short films don't have to be in like huge festival. Like, I don't know, for example, like Labao and Wei Jie, Labao's short film was never like in a huge festival, but he has such a specific and clear and actually like refreshing vision. And it went to, like, I think the biggest festival it went to was probably Singapore Film Festival for all of his past shorts. But because he was such a strong filmmaker with that's so special, I think that works as well.
Yeah, and I think that basically, like, this year also we have Daryl Chachisam, like the Malaysian filmmaker, and his short film didn't go to anything bigger than Busan Short Film Festival. It's not the main Busan Film Festival, but the Short Film Festival. But now, he's in Seafic. He won an award in Locarno Open Doors, won in Talents Tokyo. So sometimes it's not about the festivals, but it's really about the quality. So it just happens, that sometimes good short films don't go to the top festivals. But in general, it helps a lot to be in big festivals, and we will talk about it in the next panel when we talk about a taste of what is to come, because these are all filmmakers who went to big festivals, and that really did change the trajectory of their career in many ways. So if you want to hear about that, please stay for the next one, because I think that will answer your question on that side. But in terms of how many short films, I don't know. Anybody else wants to answer? No? Maybe, I don't know. Just to me, like, if your first short film is amazing, then it just takes one. It just depends. Like, for example, there's a Filipino director, Rafael Manuel. His first short is amazing. It's called Filipiniana. It won in Silver Bear in Berlin. Maybe sometimes it just takes one, but it depends on how good it is. I think it's the quality more than the amount. But of course, usually most filmmakers, before they make their first feature, they make 5 or 6 short films. I would say 4, 5, or 6 before they make their first feature. I think that's the normal amount. Do you guys agree? Yeah. Okay. Directors? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. They're still shell shocked from the previous question, so they cannot answer. Next one. Question for Sian and Jen as a producer. How do you know when the project is ready to be pitched to investors?
I think for me, it would be like when the director is already kind of sure that this is a version they're gonna go like forward to, because sometimes like the first stage of development, they will be asked like changing stories, the main structure still. So it's sometimes like we are kind of pitching that, and then we come back and then we change it again. So it's kind of like for us, like the first thing is about how sure the director is, and also how sure the producer is in terms of like if that's gonna be something doable, like in producing aspects.
Yeah,
so basically, you both have to agree. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I'm just about to say that it's similar. I think once you're confident in a draft that works and a draft that you can be convinced by, I think usually that's when it's ready.
Okay. Good. So that's done. Last but not least, are there labs for short films that you can please recommend? Well, Sun, you can answer one of that question.
Yeah. So at Momo, we're collaborating with Objectives. We have a short film incubator. Started last year during the pandemic season. So each year we accept 5 short film and we workshop. We have like 2 mentors from the region, and we workshop with filmmakers to work on the script of their short films.
So that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Other than us, I think like there's probably some in New Zealand. I think there's one that Michael Kam attended like a few years ago. I think it's still around.
There's also Belinala also does a short film station. That's the one that Pham Ngoc Lan attended, and then of course he developed a short film there that then ended up in Berlin competition afterwards. So that's an extremely important one, but very hard to get into because it's Berlin. Any other comments or recommendations? Anybody else? No. I think, yeah, there's not a lot of like labs for short films, but like it's good that you asked this to Sian because Momo Film is doing that right now. So if you're interested, please ask Sian further. You can just go to Momo Film's website to find out more about this new incubator, short film incubator. It takes place every year, right? Yeah, towards the end of the year, I think, right?
Yeah, sometime in September every year.
Sometime in September. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's basically all the answers. So we are done. So that's perfect. Great. Thank you so much. I think that was a fun session. We had laughs, we had tears. So, we have mysteries that are not resolved or answered, which is the best kinds. So please just be reminded that the next session is, I think, at what time? A taste of what is to come. I think that's 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Bangkok time. So please do come to that. That will be really fun as well to talk to the filmmakers. And of course, we hope that you saw those short films. So yeah, thank you so much to Sian, to Jan, to Sein Lyan Tun, to Xaisongkham. Thank you really for sharing this wonderful, advice and experience. Hopefully everybody got lots of good tips from it. So thank you everyone, and see you guys at 5 o'clock. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.